Good afternoon and welcome to the final session of this week's nShift webinars. Today's topic will be on nShift returns, and I'm joined here by Joe Sakia. Joe has extensive experience from the ecom industry and spent the last 4 years at nShift as a product specialist, working closely with returns, but also our other products in the post-purchase there. My name's Erik Meyer. I think some of you have probably met me on the last webinar around checkout, so very happy to have everybody on board. We're sitting both in Stockholm, rainy Stockholm, but hopefully the weekend will give us better weather. Today's key learnings, we're going to talk around how to create a hassle-free returns process. We're going to give some good insights on methods to turn returns into customer loyalty opportunities, and also talk around solutions to minimize friction and maximize satisfaction. Before we kick off, a little reminder of this week's webinar series. We kicked off with our book and print, the deliver pillar, and then we went into checkout. Yesterday we spoke about track, and today we're rounding off with returns. These are the 4 pillars that make the nShift delivery management and experience platform. And all of these products have the same synergies, working on the same carrier network and also sharing data between the different products. And as been the key theme of these series, we will kick off also with a poll. So be ready. The question is, what is your biggest challenge with managing returns today? Is it high costs associated with returns? Is it lack of visibility into return reasons and trends? Is it inefficient or manual return processes, or poor customer experience during the returns process? And we'll let it run for a couple of more seconds.
I can see that a few answers have already come in, which is great.
Perfect. All right. So, and over 60% of you have chosen inefficient or manual return processes. Second place, lack of visibility into return reasons. Third place, poor customer experience. And nobody went for the high cost associated with returns. Very interesting results. And I think we're going to touch upon all of these topics in the next coming 20 minutes. And I think that's a great way to go over to the next slide and actually kick off with returns. So before I hand over to the expert in the room, my dear colleague here, Joe, just returns on a high level, the way we see it from nShift, and it follows the same theme maybe for our other products as well. It's all about the customer-facing part, the customer experience, how you can take your brand all the way from the checkout, all the way from actually shipping goods, tracking them, and also giving them a great returns experience, following that same journey. That's one part of it. But equally important also for you as a merchant, as a retailer, to understand the return reasons. And so the whole admin part of it, analyzing the data that comes with return reasons.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for a wonderful overview about the webinar and as well as talking about returns. I think like very interesting poll numbers, right? We got the first response here from our end in terms of enhancing value through strategic improvements, where we focus more on from manual returns towards the digital world of returns. 63% poll for it, and that's where we bring in the replies. I think like when we talk about returns, what we also need to understand, what's the state of returns today? I think it has always been an overlooked lever in terms of both operationally and financially as well, when we look at returns and how returns has been taken care of within different organizations and within different e-commerce retailers. But that's where we come in, right? That's where we try to bring in the information to you, what you should change and how returns should be tackled in the long run. What we have also seen that the adoption rate from the manual returns world to the like online digital returns experience has not been that great enough, although the numbers have peaked in the last 5 years. But if we compare the whole industry, we would still say that 90% of the retailers today are still using manual return processes. And I think there are three different impacts that normally comes along with a process like this. I think how it's impacting us is, of course, it's impacting the cost. The cost is always getting higher. There are different ways how the cost is building up, probably because of the processing time that's being taken in the warehouses, where the warehouse employees are looking into forms being sent across, then opening the packet and seeing what is there. Then we see increment in the Visma calls, where the customer service is getting a lot of calls and they're trying to reply to each and every customer. And also like pre-printed shipping labels. It's a great way in terms of where you are providing the right customer experience probably. But at the same point of time, is it actually reducing returns for you? I would say possibly not. It might also be the case that it's actually increasing returns, because then you might also get the unwanted returns from the consumers, which was not supposed to come, but it ends up in your warehouse. We also see that there's a loss of opportunity, like especially the e-commerce retailers who has boutiques today, where you want your customers to visit your stores. There's a lot of cost involved in opening a boutique as well. So you want to sell more in your boutiques at the same point of time. And what we think there is, when you're running a manual process, you might also lose out on the opportunity of having a return to store as an option, where the end consumer comes in, returns the product, and may go for an exchange for another product or buy something else. I think these are some of the important levers that we should focus upon when we talk about moving or transitioning from a manual to a digital returns process.
Thank you, Joe. And I think, I mean, the poll answer shows that I think a lot of retailers are struggling with going from manual into digital. So a very good overview here as well. What we see quite often when we're meeting prospects or even existing customers looking to make big changes. Yeah. But if we look at the sort of key features, and like the other webinars, we're not going to go into detail, but we just want to give you an overview here. And in the coming 20 minutes, we'll be talking about these features, some of them in more specific terms. But when we talk about returns, we often talk about three main features, which Joe will soon dig into. That's the returns, its claims and exchanges. And as part of these webinars, we also had a checkout webinar, and we also want to talk about the reverse checkout phenomenon. Those are the key highlights that we'll be talking about in the coming 20 minutes. So I'll hand it over to Joe to start looking at the returns, claim, and exchanges part of our product.
Thanks, Eric. That's what we are going to speak about now, in terms of how we support different retailers in terms of ensuring a easy and a faster returns process. Enable them with processes like claims, which brings in a lot of transparency, wherein like we make it easier for the end consumers to add images, so that the customer services team can look into it and then make a decision in terms of giving a refund, a partial refund, or even asking the customer to keep the return with them. By that, you're saving a lot of money as well. I think with returns, what we try to enable the consumers is also, once the return registration is completed, they get a shipping label in form of a QR code or a PDF, depending on in which form the customer selected or which carrier the customer selected. And I think when we talk about returns and claims, we should, of course, not like lose focus on the most important value driver of having a digital returns portal. That's exchanges, which brings in reconversions. And I think this is one option which not only like allows us probably to keep the AOV intact, but it also opens different doors to different opportunities. Some of the numbers that I show across here in the slide are very interesting, and which really haven't changed in the last few years. We still see that like 1 out of every 3 items are kind of returned across different industries. Yeah. It's a very high number. And then what we also see is like 53% avoids purchases due to unfavorable policies. And that takes us also back to manual returns. Yeah. And having a much clearer and a simpler process when we talk about digital returns. And reconversions, we'll throw some numbers around when we talk exchanges in detail. But then what we get to know from the fashion industry is like it has been one of the main value drivers, where like 1/3 of every return has been converted to an exchange. Uh, yeah, moving on in
Just a
terms
quick
of the
question
future.
in between here, Joe. I mean, you mentioned in the beginning as well that, pre-printed labels might increase returns, but what's your view on going to a digital portal? Isn't there also maybe a fear that the returns will increase? What's
Yeah.
your view on that point?
I think a very interesting question. I think this is one question which keeps coming up in every customer meeting. I think that's one fear which keeps some of the retailers intact to a manual returns process. But I think like with every change that we make, there are those fears. But it doesn't necessarily mean that having a digital return platforms will increase the numbers. You might see for the initial time period that your numbers have increased. It's not because you have made the returns process easier. It's also because it's more transparent now.
Sure.
So people who have not seen the return label before, especially people like me who just open the packet and throw away the rest of the box, uh, necessarily now goes onto the website and sees, okay, there's a process to return, which is easier. But I think that's where we come in, right? We give you the tool not only to use it to register returns, but also it gives you a lot of data, which you put into practice at some point, and then you start reducing your returns. I think it's a very interesting phase and a process.
Thanks for a great answer.
Thank you, Eric. What we'll try to do now is we'll try to move into how to make returns convenient for consumers. And this is more from our point of view, what our product does, how we make returns registration processes easier, what are the different clicks that a customer has to go through when they get into the return portal. This video will take you through the process in terms of what are the steps involved. And then we'll also try to focus on some of the important facts and figures that we see across in the industry today. Like necessarily when we talk about our returns process, I think there are two most important validation factors that we require from the end consumer and also from the retailer, of course, because the data comes in from the retailer. And those are the email ID and the order ID. And once you have the order ID and the email ID, you can get into the returns portal, you get into the order window, you select a return reason, and then register the process. Select the carrier that you need, select the refund method in terms of if it's a voucher, if it's an initial payment method, and then complete the registration process. After that, we send in a notification. I think it's also very important to tell, like, where can the consumer actually find the return portal from?
Yeah, I think that's super important for all our products when we're talking about like letting our customers have the choice.
Absolutely. And I think like we have three interesting ways of doing it, and you can have all of the three, either of the one. It's completely up to the retailer, of course. Via the landing page, which is what the video is all about, which is embedded link in your web page. Customer clicks the link, moves on to the returns portal. Embed the iframe or the widget, which you see in the middle of the screen now, or the middle of the video. This widget can be integrated within your web page itself. And in that particular case, the customer is not moving out of your web page. You can have pre-populated URLs. The URLs can be embedded in an email or embedded in your My Accounts page. And in that case, the customer need not have to do a login through the order ID and the email ID. I think that's what the consumer survey also tells us. This was a survey done in the US around prioritizing returns. And what we see from here is the responders, like 92% of the responders said that prioritize easy returns. 84% also said that they won't come back to a retailer if the returns are a hassle and the cost involved. I think I keep coming back to the cost involved. It's a very high number when we talk about average cost of one return, which is 20 euros.
Yeah, which is a significant number.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think first when I saw these numbers, I was very surprised to know that it doesn't even involve the shipping cost.
Okay.
So you not only lose out on the margins, you also add a lot of cost to your product itself. And in a way, you refund the full amount.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very important aspect to look into.
It's very interesting numbers. And I maybe forgot in the beginning as well, there is a Q&A section. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them, and hopefully we'll have time in the end as well to answer.
Yeah, I think, Eric, moving on from returns, we move into another transparent flow that we have in the process. It's a very important feature, one of our USPs as well, which is claims.
Yeah.
I think claims adds in a lot of value to your returns process. It provides an end consumer with an opportunity to send in details around why they are claiming for a product, probably send in an image of the product in the condition that they have received, also tell you or let you know about the conditions of the product in what they have received. The interesting facts about claims here are like 20% of the e-commerce end consumers receive products which are damaged. So I think what's important to see here with a feature like this is what is the actual damage.
Yeah.
And then your customer service kinds of like, oh, I'm really very sorry for this. Oh, webinars and mismatches happen probably with the videos. But we are just quickly running a process in terms of telling you around how claims is done through our returns portal. But I think the interesting numbers that we get from the industry is with a process introduced like this, it reduces the processing time for refunds as well, because it gives a transparent view of what's probably the customer is asking for, why it's claiming for. And then even before the shipment reaching the warehouse, you can make a decision if you want to approve, disapprove, give a partial refund to the customer, or ask the customer to keep the shipment with them. And I think talking about claims and not relating it to repairs or recycling won't I won't be doing justice.
Yeah.
I think like why I've kept repair linked to claims here is if we look at where the world is moving today, when we are talking about sustainability, e-commerce, we have an option where the customer can actually select, instead of an initial payment method or a voucher, they can actually select repair, which actually allows you as a retailer to send your product back to the repair hubs, which also allows the product to stay within the cycle where it can be refurbished and sent back to the customer.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing. I think when both of you, we have small kids at home. I think those flows get beaten up all the time, and having the possibility to actually, in an easy way, send them back is an amazing feature. So great point to add here as well, not just the claims perspective, but also the repair.
Absolutely, absolutely. Moving on from claims, we should talk about the most important value drivers when we talk about returns itself, which is reconversions and exchanges. And I think, again, we see very interesting numbers coming along from different studies being done in different parts of the world. We have a number from our end as well, which we can quote in the webinar today, which is around what are the rate of reconversions that our customers get when they use the feature through us. Which I can very happily say that we are there in the industry standards. Our customers get around 30% of reconversions. And what I also mean is that 1/3 of every return has been converted to a new purchase or an exchange. If I talk about the feature itself, it's a like-to-like exchange that we support today, which means that the customer can exchange to the same product for a different color or a different size attribute. This is how we support, and like the another interesting figure or fact that I come across very like often is like, do customers really need exchanges? I'm talking about end consumers here. And what we see from the same survey is like 71% of our end consumers prefer exchange as an option.
Okay, so high number.
Very high number, which I think the retailer should be very happy about, because it allows them to keep the money intact with them. Another important way about exchanges, or what can be an alternate method of exchange, why not have in-store return as an option when the customer is returning the product? It allows you to like drive repurchases when the customer is returning the product as well. What do you think, Eric? What do you think about exchanges?
Yeah, I think that's like these numbers speak for themselves. And like you said, you're keeping the customer, you're keeping them engaged, you're keeping them happy. And I think that's the most important part. But one question that I'm quite interested in is, I think we saw the numbers in the poll, we saw the industry average about going from, like, there are a lot of merchants, retailers still on a manual process.
Yeah.
Might have a fear of going over to a digital one.
Yeah.
You already answered that question very well.
Yeah.
But what's your view on, like, do you need everything from day one, or how do you approach going from manual to a digital return platform? If we take, for instance, the exchange, claim, returns, our core features.
Yeah, I would say that, like, end of the day, we recommend or we suggest based on our experiences that we get from our customers or different consumers spread around different industry sectors. But if I have to suggest, I'll say that it's very wise to maybe go phase wise.
Yeah.
Start with returns, go simple and go slow and see how it's behaving, how the customers are adopting to the digital returns platform, because it's a change in the process as well.
Yeah.
Possibly you can also add claims along with returns, because they're not very different flows, and maybe start exchanges 3 months down the line or 6 months down the line.
Yeah.
Maybe now you know why the customers are returning, and that's why you're giving an option to exchange to another size or another fit.
Yeah,
for
okay.
example.
Thanks. Yeah, that's interesting to understand as well. And like you said, it's about gathering that data and knowing what to do with it.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Moving on to, I think, talking about the reverse checkout. So in one of the webinars, we discussed the checkout, and equally important when you have a returns portal is to offer your consumers or the end consumer the possibility of flexibility of how to return. And I think within our returns portal, we have a standard shipping selector, as we talk about it. But also here again, we're talking about the nShift synergies. How can we utilize nShift checkout within nShift returns? I like to take an example of claims and repair, and especially repair. If you're thinking about sustainability, you want to give your customers the opportunity to send back clothes for repairs, then probably you should also start thinking about what kind of delivery options can the end consumer give them back. And that's an example where the reverse checkout comes into play. You're optimizing your carriers that you work with, you're giving the end consumer the choice, and you're also optimizing to reflect on your brand and how you're thinking about sustainability, as in this example. That's very important. And again, here's the same synergies. We talk about those 4 pillars, our delivery, management, and experience platforms. It's the same carriers, and it's the same way that you can choose, or you can optimize depending who is the customer. If it's a customer, for instance, doing lots and lots of returns, you might want to start applying fees. If it's a VIP or a key member of a loyalty program, that person should maybe get free returns. So it's all about, again, here, using the data that you have and optimizing what you're showing to the end consumer.
Very good points around checkout. And I do call, like, reverse checkout a phenomena. Do you also think the same way? Like, I think
so as well. I think because it's your opportunity to continue that customer experience and that whole branding. But there's an end, and the outbound continues all the way in.
Absolutely. And I think, like, keeping customers loyal to your web shop is what we look out for. And what we want to achieve with platforms like this.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on. I think if you're talking about analytics, data, I like to call it analytics being the main hub of having a returns portal. I think it's also very important to tell from our point of view, how do we support with the administration of the tool? We have seen the front end so far. We have seen different videos in terms of how return registration is done, how a claims is done, or how an exchanges is done. I think it's also very important to know the core backend. And when we talk about the core backend, our product is divided into 4 different modules. Here are some of the images that you can see of the backend itself. I think we have an order module, we have returns as a module, which is a hub wherein when the returns are registered, claims are registered, exchanges are registered, the customer service gets to see different initiations coming in, and based on it, they perform different activities like approval, rejection, partial approval. Then we have a self-service widget, which allows the marketing team within organizations or customer experience team, whosoever is involved in branding. I think this is a space for them. Create your own return portal. We give you the space, add your own logos, add your own images, add your own content, choose your own return reasons. I think there's no limit to it. And like 100% of what you see in the front end today is configured by you yourselves.
That's amazing. I mean, there's no lead time waiting for other people to get involved. You're in full control. And that's
absolutely
important.
You need not have to reach out to a developer to change the logo or change your image. Another important thing is analytics. I think with analytics, it's very important to look at the data point as well.
Yeah.
We support a dashboard where you can extract your data through our BI APIs. We have created different tables or there are different date pickers which you can select from and filter the data according to the parameters that you need. Like from analytics is where you get to know why the returns are being done by end consumers. Is it a product issue? Is it really a fit issue? And based on whatever you get in terms of the data, that's how you go and make changes.
Yeah.
And that is a step, I think, which is very essential in the longer run because you're not letting it affect your bottom line. There's some interesting numbers that we always get within the industry where we say that 26% of the e-commerce returns are mostly due to fit and style issues. And that's why probably, Eric, we see more and more now people coming up with size charts, which being shown over in web shops and where the customers follow it as well, so that they're purchasing the right product.
Yeah. So what you're saying here is using the data to actually go one step ahead and trying to reduce returns with
Absolutely.
the data of your returns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
I think any kind of data makes you smart
Yeah.
in terms of acting on the next step. And this is a very important element of returns as a process itself as well. And like looking at the numbers, we see that 816 billion euros lost only due to returns.
Yeah.
Can we save some of them? Can we keep the money intact with the retailers? I think that's the journey what we all are looking forward to.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions, Eric?
No, I think that's very, and that sort of answered my question from earlier as well. Like how do you tackle to go from a manual process into a fully digital? And I think it's, like I said in the beginning as well, it's two-sided, right? It's the customer experience, the customer journey, the branding, but equally or more from a merchant or retailer point of view, the actual data and how you analyze it and how you work with that, because it's all about, increasing the revenue, but cost savings is such an important part as well. So,
and I think I touched upon the point of calls related to returns, and like here as well from the study, you can see 50% of the tickets that are related today in the e-commerce world are because of returns. And like even if we cut down 10% after introduction of a returns portal, you know how much revenue we are saving for the organization. We have an interesting success story now. Very interesting numbers. Hanke Moller, as a customer of ours, has been working with us globally. They're in 19 locations today. We have been in this relationship for the last 2.5, 3 years. They've had great success. When they came in, the major requirement was returns in stores, actually, because they want to drive their customers back to their stores. And I think we have helped them in a way where both us as well as Hanke Moller, what they set out to achieve, were able to achieve the numbers. So their 15% returns have now actually been increased from a point of view where the returns have come back to the stores. We have also helped them with the warehouse optimization and efficiency part. So the 40% time reduction that has happened in the warehouses now because of the digital returns portal.
It's amazing, and that's back to that increasing revenue in the stores, and then also cost saving on the other end.
Absolutely.
Very interesting.
I think for like a very interesting statement I heard very recently was, it's not always about the order value. It's should be about the average order value kept.
Nice.
And that's how, or that's why a returns process is very important.
Yeah. Great. Then to round off, we are 1 minute left. We wanted to leave you guys with one last poll. So we're going to run that and then finish up. But what would you prioritize to improve your return strategy? Would it be offering more return delivery options? Would it be reducing manual processes with automation, enhancing customer satisfaction with personalized return experiences, or leveraging data insights to optimize returns and reduce costs? And let's see if we get some results in. Interesting. So I won't read them all, but the one that got the most is reducing manual processes with automation. That goes hand in hand to the first poll as well, going from manual to digital. So thank you, everyone. for joining. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully it's been insightful, and I wish everybody a lovely Friday, a lovely weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you.